Hello guys, and welcome back to Strategic Command World War II, World at War with our Allied playthrough. It's the New Year's! In real life, when I'm recording this, it is New Year's. And in-game, right now, it is New Year's. It's just like 90 years apart. In the last episode, well, just look at the map. The Soviets are outside of Berlin, barely. The Brits and the Greeks have been pushing up into Yugoslavia after liberating Albania. The fight in Brest is getting more intense. Looks like, yeah, unfortunately, the Canadian HQ is only helping the Canadians. So, to make perfect use of the Canadian HQ, which we were given, we'd probably need to recruit more Canadians. So from what I'm seeing, when it comes to HQs, it looks like a major can support any other cooperative major. So that's why MacArthur can support these two Brits, even though these Brits are also Australian. However, minors can only support themselves with their HQs, but majors can still support minors. That's what I'm kind of picking up from what I'm seeing. So a UK or American or etc. should be able to support a Canadian or a Sudanese or whatever. However, HQs from those minor locations will only ever be able to support themselves, which is unfortunate. We do have 1, 2, 3, 4 units here for the Brits to currently use. Did I have more en route? Yeah, I was getting this mechanized, so that makes 5. I think somewhere around 5 is where a lot of these HQs max out, although that might be with 1 research, that might be with 2. I'm not quite sure of the exact maximum. I know if I look over at China's HQ here can only take care of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it trails off. China's research is at 1, so I'm thinking 4, 5, 6 regardless of rating. So right now, that would work out perfectly for the Alexander HQ. It would have the 5 units it can take care of, and the Canadians could take care of the Canadians. And then I could get more HQs for the Brits, which I have not started doing. And then I could send more Brits, or I could recruit more Canadians if it really came down to that. However, the war in Europe has been going so well for us so far, I don't know if that will be needed at all, to be honest. We'll take the strategic bombers here, and we are going to go ahead and hit Bordeaux with that again. They have nothing over there to protect it by air. And I would like to keep supply here as low as possible to refrain my enemies from operating down into Spain. So everything that's in Spain is going to have to fight the Indians with no reinforcements. So let's take the strat bomber and get another strat bombing on them. Dealing more damage to the supply, MPP, infrastructure, and everything down here. Despite the winter, we cannot allow that to slow us in our progress over here down. The next step is to secure the port of Cherbourg, in my eyes. It is going to be a little difficult. Our air force over here is in not the best situation, so we're going to go ahead and reinforce the TAC bombers, the Coastal Command fighters, and the number 11 fighters. Not too much to do here with the remaining fighters. We can go ahead and reinforce the aircraft here up, so we will go ahead and do that. Apparently we could have elite reinforcement placed things, but there's really no purpose of doing that. We also need to reinforce the illustrious carrier back up to strength. We have freed up the formidable carrier as we get ready to move things south. Thinking about how I'm going to utilize the American forces and such that I have been putting onto these long-range transports, the armies, the tanks, all that stuff, I have decided what I will do with them. They will keep going east towards Europe. I guess we'll just skip over North Africa at this point, and we'll just go right for Sicily, because we don't really need to go into this at all. And then that allows me to just focus special forces and other things like that on the Pacific for the time being. Not that that will even be needed. Realistically, at this rate, the Japanese are so just messed up. But right now we're dealing with the UK, so that will all come later. The Canadian ass destroyer needs to go ahead and get its replacements, more than we can even do in one turn, so it's going to be in the docks for quite a little bit. The British destroyers here do know where an enemy submarine is. Let's go ahead and go find it. Hello. This is a new one. This isn't even the same one we were fighting. They have a lot of subs operating out here, man. Holy crap. Let's also send this guy up north. Just make sure there's nothing else along this line. There's not. Good. And you can head back up north as well. We need somewhere to repair the Castleton. Somewhere that has the resources to actually repair the Castleton, which is not going to be located anywhere down here. At the very least, there's enough over here to get this up to 8 strength, even if we can't make it back to a port that can get this up to full strength. So I'll go send this down here, where it can go replace up to 8 strength for the time being. The Amazon destroyer is just going to continue up north for now as we patrol and maintain our lines over here in the Atlantic. We'll go ahead and attack with the Bulldog destroyer against the enemy submarine, diving from attack. This is also another advanced one, and our ASW is really not that good. We have found the submarine again, which is still in its silent mode. We'll send the Lancaster destroyer up to attack, dealing 1 damage, taking 1 damage. We'll send the Jersey destroyer up to attack, dealing 1 damage, evading damage itself. The Montgomery can join the party, dealing no damage, taking no damage. That's something, I guess. We'll go ahead and take the Columbia destroyer and put that into port 2 so we can get its repairs for the time being, because now I can actually base Canadians out of Canada. Whoa. I will send the Annapolis destroyer from Canada up to assist the Brits, dealing no damage, but evading damage itself, which is good enough. You know, I was looking into a lot of these Canadian destroyers. I was curious how the Canadians even managed to get all these destroyers. And I found the story for pretty much all of their naval vessels is the same. Since they were not an independent country at this point, all of their navy pretty much came from the UK. Not just it was made by the UK. No, these are significantly older destroyers than the current British destroyers in World War II. Things that have been in service since the early 30s and even the 20s that have been in service with the UK for a while, who eventually decided to hand it over the Canadians for them to maintain, repair, and use with their own crews. Smart way of doing it, UK, I will tell you that. But with the way history looks at it, you'd think the Canadians made this themselves and were independent 50, 60 years earlier than they were. It's quite interesting. I think everyone needs a lot more history education. I think the history education in the world definitely lets us down. Holy crap, the water has frozen over here. Can you even sail through there? What happens if you're in there with a ship and then it freezes over? I have no idea. I don't have anyone close enough to check. Oh. I can't even see the properties of it. Well, isn't that interesting? I find it interesting. Let's go ahead and go scout over that way and then go scout over this way. Nothing to really worry about. That's good. The subs are doing what they're doing. They're doing a good job. I'm happy with what they're doing. Keeping the enemies out of supply and going for some raids. Even though the winter is not when you want to be going on an offensive, the winter is what time we have. So let's go ahead and attack with our desert field artillery against this Italian unit, getting rid of its entrenchments and allowing the WWF army to do more damage as it attacks, dealing 5 damage and taking 1, meaning we actually failed that die roll a little bit. Dealing 4 damage and taking none. Another die roll that didn't work out quite how it said it would, which is a shame. House supply up here doesn't look very good. Ooh, no, it doesn't look very good. We've pushed maybe a little further than we should. Belgrade, you'll still be barely out of reach by the looks of it. Well, we do need another attack down here, so I guess we'll send the Rhodesians. Woo, there's a lot more Italians here, but there's one less Italian corps on the map. We will then send... let's see, actually. We'll take the 10th Army. Oh, no, we can't. All right, we'll take the WDF Army then, and we'll drive it forward, despite its need to reinforce. That allows me to move the Montgomery HQ up, which will be supported on pretty much all sides. The Desert Air Force fighters will go take position on the Albanian capital, which should hopefully help with things. I don't know. We'll move the Arty forward as far as it can get. We'll move the 10th Army forward as far as it can get. The supply here in this region should start to improve dramatically. The UK is successfully pushing into Yugoslavia, which is exactly what I want from them. Yeah, even though we have a lot of good luck going, it will still take a while to push all the way to Rome, and given the reinforcement at Berlin, it's still going to take a fair couple of turns to actually pull that off as well. So whether we go into Italy proper or we go for Vichy first, we do have some opportunities for the Americans. Let me look at partisans here. Let's look at partisans. You know, I'm sad when the enemies move forward. They always had so many units on the front, we never got any of the Soviet partisans to pop. I guess that just means we did really, really well, huh? Nothing else over here will really offer any partisans against me except Spain, which that is something we'll still have to deal with as the Indians, unfortunately. However, the Platt HQ has arrived and can get anti-aircraft and mobility, which I will prioritize to get that moving around faster. Ooh, that was so much money. We'll get elite reinforcements for the Sudan Defense Force Corps as well. I'll just re-emphasize, that was so much money. Holy crap. The Greeks all have their upgrades now in terms of mobility. We'll get elite reinforcements full on this Greek Corps for the time being. The second Greek Corps is capable of moving up. We are capable of surrounding Belgrade with the Greeks, which would allow the Greeks to pretty much secure, not Belgrade, Sofia, would allow the Greeks to secure Bulgaria for the Brits at this rate. The bombers here are still undersupplied, not having a good time, can't do anything. Very sad, but until we get more HQs, South Africans, shit like that up to the front, that's just how it's going to go. But the Athens Corps is capable of moving forward, so I will go ahead and move it forward to help surround Sofia. We can see German anti-air on the other side over here. Supply will hurt as we move up like this. Oh boy, it will hurt. We can upgrade this army with mobility infantry weapons. I'll go ahead and do that. It'll allow it to stay in the rear for the time being. Let's see. We don't need to push this far. I will move this corps back to Niche so it can have some time to recover and repair. Actually, unfortunately, my undo move hotkey is not working, but that's okay. I guess I will leave this over here at Niche because it's going to be in better supply and it will be able to resupply and get back up to strength sooner rather than later. Due to the current situation, I can pretty wholly encircle Sofia if I want to, so I think I will put an effort to do that, despite the fact that it might be a little bit costly. We'll go ahead and drive around to cut Sofia off from any reinforcements on this side. And let's see from here. We will attack with the Macedonian army, dealing 1 damage and taking none. That's fair. No one else can actually do any great damage. Our only other army is repairing, and our most elite corps is also kind of recovering. There's not going to be a lot of supply out here, yet pushing up to a river certainly isn't the worst thing. This corps has nowhere to retreat. Stepping off the city would not be a smart idea for it whatsoever. So I don't think that it's necessarily going to do that. This armored tank unit can definitely be used up at the front. Eventually, very, very soon, we are going to want to start moving our HQ here off of this location. But until then, I'm going to move the Desert Anti-Tank back next to it just to serve as a defense for it. The Desert Air Force Tactical Bombers, just being here doesn't really do anything for it. But I can go ahead and bomb the enemy destroyers again. Enemy interceptors flying coverage, but the Greeks running in to intercept that. Greeks getting a little bit hurt. And the destroyer taking no damage, but my bombers taking damage. Wonderful. Even with good Hellenic fighters to cover me, the inhibited British Air Force here is just really proving completely incapable of doing anything without getting another dedicated British HQ here or getting British units off the front here. Very annoying. Well, in that case, let's take the 7th Armored Tanks. We're going to move them up near Niche, start collecting our land forces. Might just have to start relegating the British troops, the Air Force, to just being in the rear. Who knows? I'd love to just put some British land units in the rear, if anything, rather than what I'm doing right now. I might also get an Albanian garrison just to kind of keep track of everything over here. Getting a corps would help boost up our units here, of course, with the lack of another HQ that could work with it. That's really not going to help me anytime soon. So the problems continue. Although keeping Tirana safe, given where it is, could definitely be something handy, but we have some other things to look at for the time being. One big thing being the fact that we are capable of starting to send the South Africans up north. But before we do that, we want to make sure there's no other important things we want to do with the British. And things over here tend to be going pretty fine. I know there's a potential for upgrading anti-air I've been thinking of. Anti-air defense here, certainly 10 MPPs to protect us against everything we've been losing. That might just be a very smart thing to do here. We can also put it here in Malaya on this major port. I might as well do this port as well. Don't know if they'll go after any of these. It's not really very easy to tell. So for right now, we'll pretend as if they aren't. How's the research? Oh, we researched a whole bunch of shit. That is going to make things a lot cheaper to do, that's for sure. However, let's go on more offensives before we start looking at things like that. So the Rupert Force Special Forces will go ahead and attack Cherbourg, dealing 1 damage and taking no damage. Alright, I'd call that pretty good. We will move them. We're going to move them a little bit to the southeast towards Caen, where there's still some fair supplies. We'll take the BEF army, now reformed, and have them attack the enemy corps at Cherbourg, dealing 1 damage, taking 1 damage, as it was a blitz attack that was a little more dangerous to carry out. The first corps from the prior BEF, unfortunately, is not capable of doing any guaranteed damage to the opponents here. So attempting to do any might just not be the smartest thing in the world. I will take the second corps, though, and send it around onto the enemy rail line here, helping cut off Nantes. I would like to go around even further, however, I do need an opportunity to catch up the Creer HQ, and the problem with that is the fact that I'd want to put it at St. Malo, and I can't move the Alexander HQ until we take Cherbourg. So, one thing at a time. The Canadians will just hold the line in range of their HQ, and the UK HQ will take care of its own units. This is forgetting all about the Greeks, by the way, who now have significant forces, including an HQ, the Mannerheim HQ. Can they buy more stuff, too? Another garrison, 2 more corps, but this is most of what they can have. Significant forces, I will reiterate, that can start upgrading and going north to start pushing into Norway. However, this is another moment where the UK is a little bit stretched on MPPs, as they are doing so much and responsible for so many fronts in this war. For now, with the UK, we will go and research the next production technology level. And then beyond that, they still have a lot more room as they finished quite a lot. They're sitting on 103 MPPs. And given that there's nothing of vast importance for them to do with those MPPs right now over on any of their main fronts, which there definitely is not, we can go ahead and spend that on more research on amphibious warfare to keep that research spending nice and high. And then, since it's winter, unfortunately, we're going to go back down to 50% of the Lend-Lease America can send, which is going to hurt a little bit. But eventually we'll get South Africans moving into Greece, maybe too little too late, who knows, and we will be doing all these other pushes as well. In order to get these carriers in location, what I'm actually going to do is something a little risky, but it should work out. We shall take the carriers, we're actually going to naval cruise them all the way down to Gibraltar, and we're going to take advantage of these ports we have here. We're going to send the Glorious Carrier down as well. And now I don't think any other carrier can get that far down. However, the Formidable can get down to Brest, getting ready to piggyback its way down there to Cadiz. And then we can fairly easily block this whole region off with some screens. It doesn't take very much to block this region off, that's for sure. I guess we primarily want heavier things blocking off from the east and lighter things from the west, given the presence that we are going to be dealing with. So let's figure that out. Heavy cruisers, that's what we definitely want for the east side. East side can be blocked off at several points. This will probably be the easiest point as well. No, but it would give some more room for things to pile up, and it would stop the Axis from being able to properly utilize it to skip past the Gibraltar to the Atlantic. So we'll take 3 heavy cruisers and we'll line them up over on the east here. Now that they are there, we should be able to start squeezing battleships and the likes in as well. The battleships don't need to be out here. They also don't need to be down there. The carrier fleet can pretty much operate as it pleases. However, the Italians aren't really going to have much in the way of carriers for us to worry about. So let's go ahead and put the... Well, let's block off the other side first and see what that takes. We have 3 light cruisers with another one that can probably reach. The Triumphant cannot get as far, however, these ones can. So the Sheffield, where do we want to block off over here? This is still Spain, And there are Spanish troops here. Just a corps defending Tangier, not a whole lot. We'll probably take it from this side, because while they can go through here, they're not going to be able to really do very much sailing up to this part. And it leaves me more room to place more things. So we'll sail the Sheffield light cruiser down. We will sail the Belfast light cruiser down, blocking off their path to swap sides. We will send the Southampton light cruiser and send that down here as well. So long as we're not in the port, we can't really be attacked very easily from land. Take the Suffolk heavy cruiser and send that down to the bottom of this pack. And I can start packing battleships in there now. We'll go ahead and send the Prince of Wales bordering Gibraltar, but of course not in a port. We got to leave that open for another carrier. This battleship, the Duke of York battleship, will go just besides it, right next to Tangier. The Valiant battleship will go just behind it. We have the Nelson battleship, which is going to go in front of the carriers. We have the King George battleship, which will go in front of the carriers as well. And then we have 2 battle cruisers, which we'll take and put just in front of these battleships, strengthening the wall of ships that we have on the inside. Now completely flooding the strait with some anti-air coverage and so many ships, there will be no Axis ship movements going between these 2 locations, I will tell you that much. The DEI sub, now present in the Mediterranean, is going to go into silent mode and go chill out by the Ionian Sea, where we can hopefully keep an eye on to seeing if anything can actually get past here. Don't know if it can now that we control so much stuff over here, but if it does, it's going to run into a sub by the DEI. Similarly, the Truant is going to progress elsewhere. We'll put it right here, where we'll be able to keep full eye on anything that might try to move towards the fleet and maybe even intercept it earlier, assuming it doesn't come through one of the ports. Not that the fleet needs much help with that. It's not going to have a lot of trouble with that. This will still help it stay a little bit safer. The Indians on the front over here, meanwhile, can get their assault in full swing, 131 on their MPPs, which will allow me to put some things in transports for sure, including the heavy artillery. That's 28 MPPs. Not really going to be prioritizing research right now, I'll tell you that much. Even though we have finished the first amphibious warfare, and I'd love to get that researching again. Oh, well, maybe then we don't have to rush it. I don't know. Units first. Units first. So we have 4 more we can board. The paratroopers, the special forces, and the tanks. Do we have enough? Oh, we have just barely enough. That is wonderful. Let's get the paratroopers heading up this way. This is as far as they can get. The heavy artillery will also progress into the Mediterranean. We'll send it up towards Benghazi, or Tripoli, actually. Tripoli. We have, what else? The special forces, which are going to have to call it quits up in the Red Sea as well, and Gulf of Aden. The Indian tanks, which can progress all the way up to the Suez Canal proper, the port just after it. And then that's everyone that we put in transports. That's all the rest of the Indian troops that are not air units. Which these are going to have to be operated if I do want to get them to the front, and their tech is surely lacking, as I've just been putting so much into units for India instead of research. I made so many mistakes this playthrough, but now I've learned from them, and now I will be stronger. We have 16 MPPs remaining, which is not a lot, but there's no particularly important things that we need to be doing with it right now. What we can do is go take a look at seeing how easy it's going to be to secure a lot of parts of Spain. We move up to Murcia and find absolutely nothing to stop us. We've taken the town and secured the port. Now they can't use this port, which is going to be pretty important. From there, I'll actually move the HQ up to this enemy town. We don't need to leave it back here. The Gibraltar garrison can thus go back to Gibraltar. And we can send, well, the HQ should catch up and be good enough. We can send the BAI army forward towards Madrid, where it can run into the enemy Spanish corps. Let's see what else we have here. If I can just start surrounding Madrid, that would be pretty handy as well, quite frankly. Although it's going to take more pushing from both sides, and I don't know if they have anything else anywhere. I know they have like a garrison and or another corps up here. They haven't already operated it out of the country, but I guess I should keep on the safer side of things for the time being. That might be smarter. So I'll send the 5th Corps around to the right side, where it will be better connected than where we have a river splitting it off. Maybe lure the Spanish out from their fortifications as we... yeah, I'll go ahead and move the Gurkhas forward a little bit more off of Murcia, moving towards Valencia, because that's going to be the goal. Once we get more units in here, that will be the solution that we're looking for, and by that point, this fleet will have moved into the Mediterranean to dominate it. Thank you, Atlantic Fleet. I kept everything over here and sent none of it to the Pacific, like the Prince of Wales is supposed to be dead by now, down there, as an example. But I did send, you know, these ones to the Pacific, but now it's kind of like the Indian Defense Fleet. And it's pretty versatile, it's pretty well varied. So that's why I like keeping it over here. It's just good for that purpose. By the way, I know that I have diplomatic chits open primarily for the UK, and I did not use any of them. But the thing is, I just didn't have enough to do everything I wanted to do even then. So rather than focus diplomacy chits on Sweden like I was going to, and like I already have the Soviets doing, I'm just focusing it elsewhere for the time being into more immediately useful things. Because diplomacy's not going to decide a whole lot anymore. Because what can diplomacy do for me? It could maybe get me Thailand with a lot of work. Otherwise, there's really nothing else over here that I could put diplomacy into that would actually directly help me with defeating Japan. So right now I'm more concerned with just making sure that no matter what, my front lines and my research are not put in the back and always take first priority. Down here in Papua New Guinea, we can once again renew our offensive against the enemy. We'll go ahead and attack first with the Kanga Special Forces, dealing 4 damage. We were only supposed to deal 3, taking none. We'll now attack with the 2nd Australian Corps, dealing none and taking none. However, we were supposed to deal at least 1, so that helps make up for it. They just keep reinforcing down here, which is at least helping drain their MPPs. But that is going to be everything that we do as the UK and as India, and that is all the time we have for this episode. So thank you guys very much for watching once again, and I'll see you on the next one.